I'm Maura Carlin. We're talking resettling refugees in Westchester with Jamal Wilson of Hearts and Homes for Refugees, Larchmont Mamaroneck. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Tell us what Hearts and Homes is.
Hearts and Homes for Refugees, Larchmont Mamaroneck, is an organization of individuals, mostly from Larchmont Mamaroneck, but a few from Rye and some from New Rochelle. We started only a few months ago, mid-November, forming with the express purpose of being able to host a refugee family right here in our community.
There aren't any refugees presently settled around here.
Correct. The refugee agencies that work in refugee resettlement only recently got clearance from the State Department to start settling refugees here in Westchester County. So this is a new venture.
So you start this venture and then the immigration order comes down from the president. How has that affected your mission?
That was a shock. I guess in some ways, once we recovered from the shock of that executive order and what it meant for the thousands of people who were ready to get on a plane, it kind of lit a fire under us. And even some of us, like myself, who are not necessarily comfortable in the activist role, decided we can't be silent. We can't just sit down and take this. We have to stand up. We have to make our voices heard, and we have to keep fighting for these people.
And you're having a march and rally this weekend. Why don't you tell us about that?
We are. This Sunday, beginning at 2 o'clock, we are gathering in Flint Park near the American Legion site, meeting at the Cannon. And we're going to gather and march down the Boston Post Road to Kemper Memorial Park. And at that point, we will have a rally with some wonderful speakers, and we're going to let our voices be heard. This rally is all about the refugees.
And some of your speakers are our local politicians. I believe you have State Senator George Latimer and County Legislator Catherine Parker.
We do. They've been very generous to give their time and lend their voices in support of this issue.
Now, refugees it's been difficult to get refugees settled in America in the sense of Americans aren't always so welcoming. Why is that historically?
That's a good question. You know, I can only imagine that through the generations, people get here and they get comfortable with the way things are, and they start to feel like, okay, this is the way it needs to stay. This is our normal, and this is what we need to hang on to. And then a new group comes in, and somehow people feel threatened by what's different, what's strange. And it takes maybe a generation for that next group to get incorporated and enculturated and accepted. And then the next group comes, and we start the process all over again. I guess it's part of normal human behavior to be afraid of people who are different. I wish that we were learning and that we didn't have to go through this process every time.
Well, this one is a little different because people are actually afraid of ISIS and people who are, inspired by ISIS. What can you say to them? Your rally is actually called, I think, Fight Fear with Facts. What are the facts that show that they shouldn't be afraid?
Well, I think probably the most comforting fact is to educate ourselves about what our vetting process really is. This vetting process that has served us well for years, and there's no evidence to support this notion that the vetting process is somehow insufficient. It has been protecting us. We have no terrorist attacks perpetrated by refugees in this country all these years. Our vetting process is a very different process than anything that's happened in Europe. People point to what's happened in European countries and say this could happen here. It's a completely different process.
How long does it take?
18 months, 2 years, sometimes even up to 3 years, because they have so many different levels of vetting. from the UNHCR, which first recommends them.
What is that? I'm sorry.
The UN High Commissioner on Refugees has to first recommend them to our State Department. They're vetted by various parts of the FBI, the State Department, Homeland Security, and they go through the level of vetting is substantial. Some of our politicians are calling for extreme vetting. It's already extreme.
People have images, from Europe of, masses of people crossing borders. That's not what's happening?
No, that's not what's happening. People come in one family at a time. They are vetted. They come in family by family. I can't speak to exact numbers of how many come in on any given week, but this is not mass migration. These are people who are carefully chosen, people who are going to do well here, people who are going to become Americans, people who are going to thrive here and be contributing members of our society.
And what kind of support does your group hope to give?
Well, it's called wraparound support, and we do everything from we meet the family at the airport, we help them get settled in their new homes, we help get the children settled into school, we help them get hooked up with their medical team, all of the social service that they're entitled to by the government, and eventually help them find jobs because they are going to be self-supporting. They're required by the State Department to pay back the loan they take for their for their airfare. So they need to become self-supporting, and we help them do all of that. We promise to support them both financially, partially, and emotionally for a year. So they come, they're not just dropped off and says, good luck. We give them a lot of support.
Well, before we go, I'd like you to again remind everyone about your March and Rally and how people can get involved if they want to.
Well, join us. Come and join us at Flint Park. We're going to start marching at 2, so come a little early, bring your signs. This march is about one issue and one issue only. This is about refugees. So your other issues, as much as we may support them and agree with them, this march is about refugees. So come and stand with us, march with us and hear the speeches, and join the fight. Keep the torch alive.
And they can find you on Facebook?
They can.
Why don't you tell what to look for?
Hearts and Homes for Refugees, Larchmont, Mamaroneck. Check out our Facebook page and join us.
Jamelle Wilson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.